Start the recording. Tonight, we are going to be talking about finalizing and creating an index. Finalizing is when we actually bring cover pages and certificate pages into the job. And so our program makes that very, very simple. And I'm going to walk you guys through that tonight. And once we finalize and we bring those covers and inserts in, we're going to go through the process of creating an index. It's not always that you're going to be asked to create an index for the reporter, but the ability to be able to create an index, I believe, makes you far more marketable. So I think it's going to be a good thing that you know how to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up Remote Scopist, and I've got a job here that is doesn't have audio. It's just a job that I got from a reporter that actually has exhibits in it. And so it will allow me to show you how to create your index. So what I'm going to do is we're going to pretend that this job has already been scoped, meaning we've already got all of the text matching the audio that we heard while we were editing the text. And so now it's time to finalize. When we have a style, the style that you're going to get normally with a job, it comes as part of the job that you import, will generally have in it an index page. Especially if they want you to create an index, it has to have an index page. You don't have to worry about creating any of these pages. They're all attached to the job itself. So in order to bring the cover pages and the certificate pages in, we simply click on Job and we click on Finalize. And this is going to bring up the Finalize using style, whatever, and a dialog box. And what this is it's showing us, well, here's the cover page that is currently with the job, and here's the certificate page that is currently with the job. Should you want to view them, you can click on Open, and it'll open up those pages for you. So this is the cover pages for the Judiciary of Trinidad, one of our customers. And you can see every place that you see the asterisk, the word case in all uppercase letters, open paren, words or a word, close paren, asterisk. That's a replacement field. So every place you see one of those, when you actually do the merge, what's going to happen is all those fields are going to be filled out. Now, the one thing that we have not done is made sure that our job information screen is completely filled out. So I'm going to cancel my Finalize. I'm going to exit out of the job, which will bring me back to the main menu of Remote Scopist. I'm going to just double click on this job, and that's going to bring up the new job screen. What I'm going to do is just make up some fictitious information just because I want you to be able to see what happens when we merge the cover pages with the job screen. Now, normally when you get a job from a reporter, the job replacement fields, what I'm filling in right now, will already be complete for you. If it's not, then they're going to have to get you the information so that you can complete it yourself. But normally they should have that completed for you. Okay, so now I've got the information filled in. I don't have any speakers. Let me put some in there so that we'll have some information. Okay, so now my screen is filled out. I'm going to click on apply and OK. And then back at the main menu, I'm just going to go back into scope. Okay, so now I am prepared to finalize. It really does not matter where your cursor is for this particular function, because the cover pages are always going to go at the beginning and the certificate pages are always going to go at the end. So again, I'm going to click on job and finalize. And this time I'm just going to click on OK. Okay, so here's my certificate at the bottom and my cover pages at the top. Now, in this particular transcript, there is no index. So, what I'm going to do is bring in my index. And for this, I'm going to actually put my cursor where I want my index to be inserted. And I'm going to hit F11. And what F11 does is it gives us access to all of the files that we have in our include folder. And that includes many, many, many cover pages and certificate pages and different include files that court reporters use. But what I'm looking for specifically is an index. So I'm going to scroll down. Here's an index file. Oh, I had it and I lost it. There we go. Okay, so here's my index file. And again, what you're seeing is these replacement fields. But these, instead of saying case, say index. And then there's an open paren, a number, close paren, and an asterisk. These index replacement fields correlate to, if I click on index right up here at the top, they correlate to these lists right here. Now I don't think these match. Normally they're going to match. I didn't check to make sure that they would match. But what I will show you is how I would add things to the index. So I'm going to mainly just add exhibits. So my exhibits for the plaintiff, that's going to be list number 7, and my defense exhibits are going to be list number 8. So here's how I go about finding the exhibits. I just do Control F, which is just find. And I'm going to just type in the word, I don't want to do it in all caps, EXHIBIT, exhibit. And I'm going to do find next. Okay, so here's my first exhibit. And I can highlight this exhibit. Normally I would highlight the description of the exhibit. So this is actually the description. It's a chart. And this is going to be an exhibit for the plaintiff. So I'm simply going to do Alt-I 7. And down here at the bottom it says index chart found on page 4 was added to index page 7. You see that? And now I can just do Control F again. Find next. And here's my next exhibit. exhibit number 2. So Alt I7, and this is how you go about it. It's as simple as that. Now, what some people do is while they're actually going through the job and editing it, some of them go ahead and add their exhibits right then and there. I think that's a wonderful thing to do. And it's not a problem because you can adjust the page numbers right before you bring the index in. And I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to go ahead and add a few more exhibits. Here's plaintiff's exhibit number 5. So this would be Alt I7, 7. And then again, Control F. Find next. Here's plaintiff's exhibit number 4. Alt I7. And you could go on and on. That's all you do. And then when you're done adding all of your exhibits, your witnesses, your examinations, all of that to your index, it's time to actually do what we call creating the index. Now, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to push it down because I want my index to start on page 3, line 1. And you see, I can see that that's page 3, line 1. So I just entered it down so that it would start on its own page. And now I'm just going to do index, create indexes. And it's going to say, are you sure you want to create the indexes now? You just click on yes. The cursor's going to blink a bit. Okay, I'm going to see if the indexes the things that I added to the index are still there. And actually, this is a good thing to do. If ever you're going through creating your indexes, adding things to what we call your virtual lists, and you want to see what your lists are looking like, you can click on Index, scroll down to Show Index Page, and slide over to Show Index Page 1. It is the same to do Alt IS1. So here's index page 1. I haven't added anything to it. We know that I've only really added anything to index list number 7. So I'm going to hit the number 7, and that's going to take me to my list. So here I just have chart. So I might want to put exhibit number 1. Oops. Oh, I think I just found a bug. When I type in the numeric 1, it actually takes me to page number 1. Now notice that the page number is on the right-hand side. If you're adding your exhibits while you're editing the document, the page numbers are going to change, especially once you add the cover pages. And so it's important to realize that there may be a time when you need the page numbers updated. So let's address that. I'm going to click on Apply and OK to close out of my virtual lists. And if I click on Index, I can click on Refresh Indexes. It's going to ask if I'm sure. I say yes. And what it's doing is not something we're seeing, but what it's doing is it's actually refreshing the index page numbers. So now I'm going to go ahead and create the indexes again. I'm going to say yes, and this time I'm not going to try to mess with it while it's doing its thing. This is a rather long document, and so it's actually scanning the whole document, which is why it's going to take a minute, even though we've only actually added a few exhibits to our index list. What's going to happen is the replacement fields, the asterisk, index, open paren 1, close paren, asterisk, all of those replacement fields are going to go away. And they will be replaced only by the actual exhibits that we highlighted and the page numbers that they're on. Okay, I don't have exhibits in here, so I'm just going to pick some random stuff to highlight. This would be a witness, so Alt-I, let's call that number 2, a state's witness. And you can always be sure that it was added by checking your status bar down here at the bottom. It's going to tell it that you've added something and what you've added it to. I'm just going to add random things for now so that I can have some things in the various lists. Alt-I and add it to a list. Okay, so I've got a few things in there, just random things that I've added. Remember that I can go Alt-I-S to show and number 1, and it's going to bring up the ability to look at the lists, and I'm automatically going to be on page 1. If I hit the number 2, it's going to bring me to index list 2. If I hit 3, it'll bring me to index list 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so I've been able to view my indexes, and you can make changes to them while you're in there. I'm going to go ahead and close this now. And I've got to insert an index page in order to be able to add an index. So I'm going to hit F11. I'm going to go and grab an index page of some sort here. Click on open, and it's going to bring it in. So here's an index list. And now I can click on index, create indexes. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. So here are the things that were brought in. It was exactly what I highlighted. So if I would have wanted to edit it, I could edit it in the viewer, or I can edit it right here. Regardless, you're going to have to add tabs because it's only going to put 2 tabs in. And mostly people want their page numbers off to the right. So for the most part, what you need to do is just line them up over to the right, if that's the way you do it. There are so many different ways to index that if you've ever created an index, you know that this is far easier than the way you normally have to create an index. So there's my index, and I'm done. You can always double check it by going to one of these things and making sure it's on the right page, but it should be pretty accurate. If at that point you want to bring in your covers and certificates, you can still do that. The covers will be brought in front of the index, and the certificates will be brought in at the end, which I can still do by clicking on Job and Finalize and OK. And so there's the certificate at the end, the cover pages at the beginning. Oh, this one had a very complex index. So I'm just going to remove that since I used a different kind of index. And there we go. Oh, no, this is part of it too. I just need to move the word proceedings over to where it belongs. And then I'm done. And depending on if your reporter wants you to bring it into the word processor or create an Ascii for them, we can do that just to show you. I'll go to present. When you see this, present this job, open with media controller, that's just giving you the option to listen to the audio while you're in the word processor. If you're confident that you don't need to hear the audio again, simply remove the check and click on OK. I don't know how many of you are very familiar with Microsoft Word, but up here at the top of the page, you see this little paragraph mark, and if you click on it, it's called Show Hide. And if you click on it, it shows you where your tabs are, where your section breaks are, where your page breaks are. And so let's just say that this is an extra one. We'll remove that. Here's our index. I'm going to do Control Enter to make proceedings start on their own page. Center that. Go down to certificate. We always want to make sure that line numbers go all the way to the bottom of the page. So if there are 32, you want to see all 32 line numbers. And then we're done. I'm going to click on Save. And I'm going to close Word. And now, if I want to create an index for the reporter, I click on File. I'm sorry, not an index, an Ascii. I go to Generate Ascii, and you can tell it to generate from Scope or from the word processor. I'm going to do it from the word processor. We want to make sure we have the right lines per page set. And it's asking us if we have single spacing in any of our beginning pages or our ending pages. And I believe that we have single spacing on the first and the second page for sure. So I'm going to do 2 pages in the front, 1 page in the back. And I'm going to click on Create. And you're going to see it says Beginning Document Generation. And that's going to give you a constant status of what it's doing until it completes. And then it'll say Finished Writing Ascii. So now I'm going to click over here all the way in the upper left corner of the Generate Ascii file screen to view the Ascii. And so here, you're actually viewing the Ascii. And sometimes it can move things over a little bit. As long as it's just alignment, you can do that here in the Ascii. But you can't add missing text or lines of text, because then it'll throw the line numbering off and the page numbering off and all of that. And so all you want to do is possibly fix, page numbers that aren't lining up. Everything else you really need to let it be. So now that my Ascii is done, I'm going to save it and I'm going to close. Now, notice that the Asciis are written to an Ascii folder on the C drive just called Ascii files. I'm going to close out of the Generate Ascii screen, And one of the things I like to do is attach the Ascii to the job if I'm going to send the whole job back to the reporter. If I wasn't going to send the whole job back to the reporter, then I would probably go back into Present, save my document by a name that I could recognize, and then email the Ascii and the rich text format file to the reporter. But if I did want to go ahead and attach the Ascii, I could click on Import, Acquire Files for Job, and then I'd go to the C drive, Ascii files, and see it's looking right now for sound files. But if you go to all files, then you'll see there's my Ascii. If I click on open, it's going to say I acquired the file. Now I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to close this window, and I'm going to go to view and show files. And these are all the files that are associated with this job. Here are the audio files. Here's my scope file here. Here's my presented file here. Here's my Ascii file up here that I acquired. So I've put everything together, which just makes for a better organized file. It is usually normal, though, that the reporter will only send the work product back because the court reporter already has all of this. The only thing they don't have is the Ascii you created and the completed RTF file that you created, which here's the name of it right here. 2018-03-2019-0236-001. That's kind of convoluted and it's hard to remember. So normally what I would suggest you do is when you go to Present, and you can go back to Present at any point in time, go back to your Word document, and you can simply do File, Save As, browse to where you want to put the file, which can be anywhere. I think I made a special place in my documents, completed jobs. Well, that's completed jobs in PDF, but I'll put my RTF files here too, and I'll just call it Kenneth Moore. And save it. You can save it as an RTF file, a rich text format file, because whether your reporter works in Microsoft Word or Corel WordPerfect, a rich text format file, RTF file, can be opened in either Microsoft Word or Corel WordPerfect. So you're sending it back to them in something that they can see, no problem. And they're going to go ahead and import it as a presented file, and they can also acquire the Ascii as well. And then they're done. They've got what they need from you. And once that is done, you can delete files if you like. Let me find something that I don't mind deleting here. I'm going to click on File and Delete Job. It's going to ask me if I'm sure I want to delete it. You say yes, and poof, it's gone. And you can do that at any point in time. This will get rid of all the audio files. It'll get rid of the whole job. But once you do that, remember that you have to go to your recycle bin, because what you've deleted will be in the recycle bin, and you want to empty your recycle bin. Those weren't large because there were no audio files attached to that, but audio files are very large. So you want to remove them once you verify that the reporter has got the work, and everything's fine, they don't need you to do anything else, then you're free to delete it. There's no reason for you to keep it. The reporter has it. Now, none of the jobs that I have put up for you have anything that really you can index. So I'm going to try to find something, a few somethings this week, so that I can create some short dictations for you that have in it what you need in order to be able to play with the indexing feature, so that maybe it will generate some questions that I can answer for you. You can always watch the video on creating the index that's on the course. This is all under lesson 7. It goes through the assignment of finalizing, adding your cover pages, and creating the index. And all of the details about indexing are listed in the indexing book. So hopefully, or not. Okay. For now, just watch the video. And hopefully I'll have more up for you next week. Now, I have not checked the chat. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone's had any questions. Does anyone have any questions about indexing or finalize or present or creating the Ascii?
What does Ascii stand for?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Sort of an old term. Let's see. There we go. Let's see what Wikipedia says. American Standard Code for Information Interchange. The reason it was created so long ago was so that people could share files that were created in all sorts of different applications. And so it was kind of like a text file of old. Like today, if you save something as a text file, chances are, no matter who you send it to, they can read it, because a text file can be viewed with the Notepad, WordPad, Word, WordPerfect, just about anything. And so when Ascii was created a long time ago, it looks like it was created in 63. And so it's really a very old format, but because it removes all of the rich text formatting, for instance, an ASCII will keep a tab and a space, but an ASCII will not keep centering. And so if there's centering in your document and you create an ASCII, everything that was centered is going to be slammed over to the left. So it's always better to use tabs or spaces to line things up, as opposed to centering or left justification or right justification, because all of that goes away when you do an ASCII. Daphne has a good question. Is there a time limit to keep files? Not for Scopist. The onus is on the reporter as far as that is concerned. You may want to ask your reporter how long they'd like you to keep the file, but I say that once the reporter has had time to view it and sends you back a note saying, okay, that's great, we're done with that job, move on to the next one, then at that point I think you're pretty safe to delete it. Reporters do have a certain amount of time they have to keep things that they've produced, but not Scopist, to my knowledge. Daphne asks a very good question. When is our last class? Because my software says I have 4 days left. I believe that this is this our 3rd or 4th class? 4th or what is it, you guys? I don't even remember. It's what? Okay. I think that we're definitely going to need at least 2 more weeks, and I'd like to give you as much time to practice as you'd like. So I am going to be sending everybody 30 more days tomorrow. A few people have already messaged me, and so I think that I got Suzanne her 30 days, but I'll be sending everybody, it's the 4th. Thank you, Daphne. But I'll send you guys another 30 days, and even if we don't have a great many more classes to do, I'd like for you to keep practicing, and I'd like for you to know that you can send me questions via Skype and just play with the software. There's not that much to it, compared to our other softwares, of course. I've been doing it for 20 years. It's easy for me to say there's not much to it. So I know that you guys will need time to practice. So I'd like to give you that time so that you can get familiar with the software before you feel like you're ready to start teaming up with a court reporter. And I'd like Diane to start her English class just as soon as she wants to do that, because there are some of you that really need that help. Others of you know exactly what you're doing and you don't need the help, but you might like to just take the refresher. I think the majority of you have signed up for it, and I know that Diane's going to do a great job with it. So as soon as Diane's ready to start her class, I think that I'll just let her take my place on these evenings, and I'll just sit back and watch and learn with the rest of you while she teaches us our court reporter English, so that we can be sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing in terms of punctuation. I have started grading more of your work. I got a significant amount done today. I'm hoping to finish tomorrow with everything that I have in, and I'll be sending you your documents with just feedback so that you can have a look at it and see where you're missing things. But there are some things that I need to check on to make sure that you had both the audio of the room and my voice, because if you didn't have the audio of the room, then you would have been going only on my voice, and then your problems, the things you missed were probably because I missed them. So I'm going to check all that out before I send you your feedback. But for the most part, everybody's doing really, really well. The majority of you have been trained as court reporters. A great many of you, I should say, have been trained as court reporters. So that's not really a surprise to me that you're doing so well as Scopist. Court reporters make the best Scopists ever. So that is, I'm very pleased with the majority of your work. Those of you who are brand spanking new to this, just be patient with yourselves. It will come in time. Well, that's our time for this evening. So I'm going to let you all go. I thank you for joining me tonight. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me. We'll see you next Tuesday night. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
Adria.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.